Hey, Courtney, today we're covering Last Night at the Telegraph Club by Malindo Lo. Can you read us a quote from page 21?
She unfolded it carefully. There was Tommy Andrews, gazing into the distance like a movie star, a halo of light around Tommy's gleaming hair. Tommy Andrews, male impersonator.
Welcome to MILF,
I'm Courtney,
and I'm Jennifer.
and we are two moms into literary freedom. So we've been meaning to cover this book for quite some time, haven't we?
Yes, it's been on our list for like a couple of months.
Yeah. Well, no, I think I started reading it last year, and we were going to cover it during Pride Month of last year, but life got in the way. But it is such a good book that there's no way we were not going to cover it.
Yeah, and I read this after it was challenged here in Flagler, so I was on
Mhm.
the committee for it, so I
Mhm.
had to read it, and yeah, it's a really good book.
And what happened with this book here in Flagler? Is it off the library shelves?
We were able to save this one.
Okay, that's what I was wondering. Yeah, I remember that now. So it actually has received lots of awards, including the National Book Award. Let's see what else. It's hard to read. I'm like reading the actual awards off the book. Obviously the Stonewall Book Award, which we'll get into that, and then a Youth Literature Award from the Asian Pacific American Literature Association.
Yeah, it's
Um,
received a few too.
yeah.
National Book Award for Young People's Literature, Stonewall, which you just mentioned, the LA Times Book Prize for Young Adult. It's got a few.
And I will say, in addition to the really important content, right? It's a historical fiction, right?
Right.
So the characters in this book are, they didn't actually exist, but the events in this book are real, and they took place in the 1950s in California, specifically in Chinatown, correct?
Yes. And I remember specifically
In San Francisco.
that after at the end of the book, like I was looking into more about the book,
Hmm.
and I went to Melinda Lowe's website, and she has tons of research that she did on there.
Hmm. Oh,
So
yeah.
it made it really hard for them to discount this as not having any educational value
Hmm.
because historical facts are like sprinkled throughout the book.
And I think that's probably aside from, the very limited amount of sexual content in this book, which was very just much I think you remember that part of the book better, but there wasn't a lot of there was no sex. It was just sort of like kissing and feelings, right?
Yeah, and some like dry humping.
Yeah, normal stuff, normal teenage stuff.
Normal to, yeah.
But and she's 17 in this book, but I think one of the problems that Moms for Liberty and other right-wing extremist groups have with this book is that it takes place in 1954, or yeah, in the 50s after the Korean War began. And when, there's all this talk of the Red Scare paranoia, where
Right.
if you're Asian, you're a Chinese spy, right? Or you're an Asian spy or whatever. So that there's a lot of racism in this book that the main characters experience. And there are actually characters that do join the Communist Party, right?
Right.
Because and these are young college aged kids that are trying to make a positive difference. And so
Hmm.
the author paints this different picture of what it was like to grow up as or to live as an Asian person in the 50s during this Red Scare. So
Yeah, it, it
yeah.
paints like a very realistic picture, I think.
Hmm.
And I honestly I don't even think Moms for Liberty gives a shit about that
Oh. Yeah.
because I don't even think they read these books. I think they just search for words and
Hmm. Wasn't read the quote about the boobs in the lighter. There's
oh,
so this is on the
so
Moms
well,
for
you
Liberty
gave it away
website.
already.
Oh, sorry. Well, it's still a funny quote. I kind of want this lighter now. Where can I get this?
So they highlighted this as, and if you zero context, right? Pretend you didn't hear what Courtney just said. It's awful, isn't it? At least you don't have to squeeze her breast to get it to work. I've seen one of those too.
And so they have no idea, Moms for Liberty, what that means.
Out of context, like, yeah, that sounds, when I read that to you, the first thing you thought was it's a sex doll.
But if this is 1950s. That kind of advanced sex doll technology would not be
No.
available at that time.
And what it was about was a gag gift that one of the girls had of a lighter.
So if you press the boobs, a fire comes out.
I guess like that was not even what this one was. She was talking about another one that she owned.
I want that for Christmas.
Right.
That's no, you know what? That's gonna be my
Stocking
Chris.
stuffers.
That's my Christmas present to you. Is gonna be.
We should give them out to Moms for Liberty.
Oh yeah, right. Do you remember this? Yeah, right. They have no idea. So anyway, yeah, the book is what I was gonna say. In addition to like the really important content, about the unfair treatment of Asian Americans and the discrimination against LGBTQ community, um, the writing is amazing. It
Yes.
Even if you take those two things out of it, like the way that Melinda describes just like Lily reading a book in her apartment, like or sorry, her room, you would think like, oh, that's not very interesting. Like that sounds like a boring thing. Like there's a girl reading a book on her bed. No, the way that she like paints the scene of like Lily's room and the weather outside and like the ambiance of Chinatown, it's just like you feel like you're in Chinatown in the 1950s because of
Yes.
like what an amazing writer she is. So like you should definitely read this book. I've read some pretty bad books and this is not.
Not one of them.
Yeah.
I think it's just very interesting too that like everything that Monster Liberty focuses on, right, is always sexual stuff. So this book to them is just horrible just because it has what they consider obscene sexual activities, sexual nudity, which there's no full-on nudity in this book.
Mm-mm.
Not that I can recall, or even in their own
Mm-mm.
report, it's not
No.
there. Um, alternate sexualities, which ding ding ding, that's a real problem.
Mm-hmm.
And derogatory term, which they're not even speaking on racism here. It's because the word dyke appears
Oh.
4 times in the book.
And that's again just to paint the picture of how the LGBTQ community was treated, and still is treated. Like that's a word that's used derogatorily, if that's a word, but you get what I mean.
It appears 4 times. I honestly don't even recall where that word
Yeah.
pops up.
The point is it doesn't matter because
It's
yeah,
yeah,
the context is like this is how you were treated if you love
right.
another woman. Yeah.
And the
And
book is obviously about her discovering that she is a lesbian,
mm-hmm,
but it's not just about that. It's about
mm-hmm,
her relationship with her family,
mm-hmm.
her relationship with her friends.
Being afraid that her father is going to be deported for being
Yes,
a communist, right? Just because he's Asian.
right.
And also in 1951, this California Supreme Court ruled that homosexuals have the right to public assembly. For example, like in a bar, like you can go to a gay bar. And so that happened in 1951 in California, and that's where this book takes place.
Yeah. So the story follows Lily,
Mm-hmm.
um, who is in high school, and she's got her long time friend. Shoot, I'm
Kathy.
bad. No, Kath is who she has a crush on.
Oh,
And so her longtime friend is
Shirley.
Shirley. Thank you. I was thinking Sarah and I knew that was wrong.
Yeah.
Shirley is like her longtime friend. They grew up together. They're BFFs. And Shirley's parents have a Chinese restaurant. So they do spend like a lot of time there,
Mm.
helping, like fold napkins and stuff. And I think that is where they first see,
The
that's the
ad.
first time Lily sees, yes, the ad in the paper there. And also she notices a woman across the street show up with another woman, but
Oh, yeah.
one of them is kind of dressed very masculine. And she's like,
Yeah. Like
immediately like,
Tommy Andrews.
yes. And her attention is drawn to her because she's just like mesmerized by it. So
Mm-hmm.
you
You
start to
can
get like,
imagine in the 50s, like how it would feel for like a little girl who was forced to wear dresses and stockings like her whole life.
right,
And she's not a little girl, she's a teenager, but like you can imagine how anyone would feel in the 50s when they saw a handsome woman with like a top hat. That's hot,
right, right.
right? Like even to straight women, like I mean maybe I'm not straight, I don't know, but like I think that's hot. Like the way they describe Tommy Andrews in this book, like I'm like I want to meet that person. Like I think that's amazing and like very
Right.
just something you're just drawn to it for whatever.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I get it. and that's where she starts, like, she notices, she starts realizing how she's reacting to these things. She immediately wants to clip the article about Tommy Andrews, and she, like, sneaks it away because she's like embarrassed that she wants to
Hmm.
keep that.
And she hides it in
And
her book.
yes.
And then
And
she
so
like looks at it like in private every now and then because
yes.
hmm
And so there
I,
is a scene where she, again, this is to me not explicit, but it's understood that she masturbates.
hmm
She likes to go to the grocery store. And you talk about this all the time, going to
At
Winn-Dixie
Winn-Dixie. Yeah.
and
The
the
smut
smutty
section.
books.
Yeah.
So this grocery store has books like that.
Hmm.
And she finds a book of two women.
Which is
And
really hard to find in the 50s.
right. So that part is probably fiction, right?
Yeah, I'm wondering.
But she finds this book, and she's like hiding in the grocery store trying to read the book
So what
and
I did when
hoping,
I worked at Winn-Dixie.
yeah, and hoping like nobody that knows her like walks in and catches her reading this book. But in the book, the book inside of the book, there's
Oh
these two
yeah.
women, and they're kissing, and
What are their names? Maxine and
Patrice,
Patrice. Max and Pat. I like how they're
Max and Pat, yeah.
androgynous names, but they're two women and they're kissing, and she's reading this book in the grocery store, like
Yes.
secretly, because there's no internet in
Right. There's no
the
internet, so
50s.
all she can do is imagine
Yeah.
it.
Yeah.
Um, and it does talk about Maxine like strokes Patrice's breasts, and the other one lets out a sigh and says, "Kiss me now." And that's kind of as far as it goes in the book. So she went home, and this is where it picks up. She went to bed imagining Maxine's hands on the buttons of Patrice's blouse, unbuttoning it. She slid her own hand beneath the placket of her nightgown. She felt her own warm skin beneath her fingertips. In the quiet darkness of her bedroom, she felt the faint but insistent beating of her heart, and she felt it quickening. She imagined the blouse sliding off Patrice's shoulders, the pale swell of her breasts. Lily's whole body went hot. She felt the need to cross her legs against the hungry ache at the center of her body. She imagined them kissing the way Marlon Brando had kissed Mary Murphy in The Wild One, which she and Shirley had snuck into last February. "Don't be such a square," Shirley said when Lily had worried about getting caught, because Lily's a goody goody. She doesn't like to get into trouble.
Hmm.
But now, in Lily's imagination, Marlon Brando became Max, crushing Patrice's bonelessly in her arms. And then their lips pressed together, and Lily tugged up the hem of her nightgown and pressed her fingers between her thighs, and pressed and pressed. That's as explicit as it goes there. She
100,
pressed.
100% healthy, normal,
Right.
teenage, if not adult, normal sexual behavior that groups like Moms for Liberty, the Heritage Foundation, now, anyone associated with Project 2025, like,
Right.
I don't know, Baptist churches, whatever, the list goes on, are going to try and say is unhealthy, deviant, unwholesome behavior, when really, like, that is just, encouraging a normal sexual thing.
Right. And I don't even think that's encouraging it. It's literally just any teenager reading this would have already experienced that, I feel like.
I don't
This
know. No,
wouldn't
I
be
know a lot
new.
of people that were very like I growing up and like having conversations with friends, adult friends about the difference between like growing up back then versus like raising kids now. It was like there are a lot of cases where teenage girls they didn't explore their sexuality because it's very stigmatized. I have had
Right.
conversations with people where it's like, no, I didn't explore that part of my body until I was married or whatever. And it's like, it depends on who you are and what environment you're growing up in. But I feel like a lot of girls especially would feel like dirty if they touch themselves.
Yeah. And she does, right? She feels
Yeah.
ashamed by this. But that's kind of what I mean. Not necessarily that someone reading this would have already touched themselves, but they would have
Mhm.
already experienced that heat, that desire,
Oh, totally, for
because
sure.
that's
Yeah.
unavoidable.
That's unavoidable for sure. But I think that like if you're a teenager and you're reading this book and you're like, "Oh, wow, she has the same," especially if you're lesbian, she has the same feelings that I do. That validates my feelings. I'm not
Right.
alone. I'm gonna go masturbate to this thing that I read about, or this book even, like masturbate to the masturbation scene in this book. Like, I don't know.
But it doesn't even, to me, that's not even that explicit. Like
Yeah,
she literally says she pressed her fingers between her thighs and pressed.
right.
Someone who doesn't know what to press
Right, but
would
that's the first
literally,
step. They'll figure it out.
I could imagine them actually pressing on their thighs and going,
Oh
I don't
yeah.
feel anything.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't get it.
Maybe they're gonna go to their grocery store now and look for a book that will help them get to where they need to get to.
Right.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
mean, the point is like this isn't harmful. If anything, it's helpful, but it's
Right.
being painted as harmful. Another thing I like about this book is she uses Chinese words in here that inform the reader a little bit about the Chinese culture. So like one of the I think her mom takes her to Macy's department store to get her new clothes that are very feminine and she hates it. But
Oh, yes.
yeah, one of it says the elevator girl at Macy's was a young Chinese woman wearing a sky blue, of course I'm going to say this inaccurately, but changsum, which is a traditional Chinese dress embroidered with yellow flowers. And she kind of does that throughout the book, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, this book is full of culture.
Yeah.
It's full of, historical truths.
Hmm.
It's a good book. Like I said, this whole masturbation scene, it's
Hmm.
literally a paragraph.
And a humongous
That's
book. Like,
it.
how many pages is this book?
410, I think.
Yeah, because here's the majority of the book is stuff like this. Again, they're still in Macy's. I'm gonna read you this scene from Macy's where her mom has dragged her to this store. Lily was drawn to a tabletop chemistry set. There were test tubes in a stand and a tiny Bunsen burner. Strangely colored liquids housed in little glass vials. The box that the chemistry set came in had an illustration of two boys playing together. Over their blonde heads were the words, "Discover the future today." She didn't know how long she examined the chemistry set, but suddenly her mother appeared with Eddie and Frankie in tow, her brothers, I think, exclaiming that she had lost her. And what had she been doing? Lily had pointed to the chemistry set and asked, "Can I have this for Christmas?" Her mother gazed at her for a moment and then said, "Don't you want a doll instead?" Lily had been too old for tantrums, but something about her mother's response made her angry and fisted her hands by her sides and announced, "I don't want a doll." Her mother's face had hardened instantly, and Lily saw her hand jerk as if she were about to strike her, but she couldn't let go of either Eddie or Frankie. Instead, she snapped, "You're in Macy's, for goodness sake. Be quiet." And then she started crying. So I don't know, like that's sort of like one of the themes in the whole book is like she does not feel like she belongs to society. She wants a
Right.
chemistry set instead of dolls. She's Asian and has black hair instead of blonde hair, like the white kids that were featured on the chemistry box set. Like that's sort of the
Right.
whole theme here is her figuring out that she's not, the typical
Hmm.
girl that society wants her to be.
Yeah. And a lot of us experience that.
Yes.
That's just normal. It's in her day, misogyny was, I mean, horrible.
Yeah.
And
Way
it's
worse
bad
than it is
now,
today.
but
Yeah. Even though one would argue that it's getting worse.
yeah. Well, that's the whole thing. I think when they say make America great again, I think that's what they want to go back to.
Yes. They want to go back to the 1950s Macy's where the chemistry sets are for white boys and
Right.
not Asian girls.
Did I say white or right? I meant to say right. And I think I said white.
I think, well, either way it works. You said right, but I went on with the whole white analogy. There's another scene I won't be able to find it, but it's like um talking I think she's talking about like dressing in the clothes that make her feel comfortable, like the pants and like the button-down shirts and the loafers and all that stuff. And I love the style of the 50s,
Yeah.
but more so than anything, I love the men's style of clothing. Not just the 50s, but like from the 20s to the 50s.
Okay.
I don't know, like you've seen Fantastic Beasts?
Not recently, so I kind of remember, but it's more like suits, right? And like dress
Yeah.
pants, suspenders,
That
that
takes
sort of
place in
thing.
like the 20s, yeah, with the suspenders and like the jackets and stuff. But Newt Scamander is like the main character, but because Halloween is coming up, my son wants to be Newt Scamander for Halloween. And
Okay.
the little Newt Scamander outfit is so adorable. It's like, just imagine a 1920s debonair, guy with his like little
Yeah.
bow tie and his matching corduroy vest. Like, I just love that fashion. So I can only
Yeah.
imagine like Lily wanting to like
Dressed
emulate
like
that.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's emulating like that's her like identity. And that's where Tommy Andrews, male impersonator, comes in because she has already adopted that identity when she does drag at the Telegraph Club, which is the name of the book. But we're not going to spoil it.
Yeah, I mean, there's really not much. The book is worth reading. I think
Mhm.
everyone should read it. I think the book is excellent. I think the issues that Moms for Liberty has with the book are just dumb for the most part. Like there's some things in here. Um, the author explained rather slightly that instead of kissing, Chinese women make love with their hands by kissing with their fingertips instead of their lips.
Huh.
Right? That sounds really like provocative,
No, that sounds just really loving and
but
like
it's not. Yeah.
no, that sounds like sensual and loving. And again, going back to healthy sexual relationships, like I think the relationships in this book are respectful and consensual and loving, and there's no problem with that. And of course, extremist groups would like to pretend like there's a problem with that. But there is no problem in, with a loving, consensual, respectful relationship, whether it's two members of the same sex or a male impersonator like Tommy Andrews, or, you know, just a person who identifies with a different gender than what their anatomy says. Like it just, none of it matters
Yeah.
as
No.
long as there's love and respect and consent.
I mean, like I said, we're not going to tell you what happens, but
That's,
Kathy is a friend that she makes in school.
hmm
And she's the one I think that takes her to the Telegraph Club.
hmm
And
Yeah.
so, yeah, things progress. You can connect the dots.
Yeah. But it's just
Um,
their journey.
right.
Kath and Lily's journey is such a good one to read. And then of course Tommy Andrews, like she is a part of all of this too, because they go to the Telegraph Club. So it's just definitely worth a read.
Yeah.
Whether
Like,
you're gay or not, it doesn't matter.
no, it doesn't matter. It's a
Yeah.
good story regardless.
Hmm.
I don't know if you want to go over some of the other stuff that Moms for Liberty had an issue with.
For a book that was almost banned here in Flagler, and I'm sure was taken off shelves in many other districts around the country, this report is so short, and it really,
Yeah.
it just kind of goes to show that like books featuring LGBTQ characters and BIPOC characters are unfairly targeted by these extremist groups, even though there's nothing in there that's, if this was a white heterosexual relationship, it wouldn't be even an issue at all.
Yeah. And this book was given a 4 out of 5 as far
It's
as
still
like,
on a list. Oh, like five is the worst?
yeah, 5 is
What?
the worst. This is given a 4.
That's
Okay.
ridiculous.
And I mean, it's not very explicit. There is, talks like there's like 2 paragraphs, right? The one I read about the masturbation, and then there is a scene with her and Kathy. Um, but it's nothing explicit. There's
Mhm.
no I think that the way this is described is more like closed door. There is some like explanation, but it's not detailed.
Yeah.
So it's not like,
Yeah. I mean, I'm not surprised. It's a book about a woman who is impersonating a man. Like that's the last thing that these extremist groups want. They want, you know, to make America great again, go back into, the 50s where the
right.
perfect American family was a man and a woman, and they had their white picket fence, and the woman was in the kitchen and the man went to work, and they had their two perfect
Hmm.
blonde children. Like that's what they want. So,
Yeah. And I think they filled also this with a lot of just bullshit stuff. And when I say this, I mean their report to make it sound worse than it was.
hmm
Like the whole make love with her hands thing, that was like she's reading an article that someone else wrote about Chinese culture and
hmm
Chinese women and how they don't kiss. Like you'll never see like them kiss in TV or anything because they don't kiss.
And
Um,
that, how dare we learn about some like a culture different than our own?
right.
So
Another thing they put in here, they kissed each other. She reported, and saying it out loud was thrilling. It made her blush, and yet she couldn't say the word the book had used to describe those kind of girls, lesbian. What's wrong with that? A kiss?
lesbian's a bad word.
And since when are kisses like explicit sex, you know?
Yeah.
Why is that a bad thing?
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of the things that they have like highlighted here, it's all about kissing.
Yeah.
Not even like make out. Francis was bold and he kissed her gently on the lips. Ooh,
Mm-hmm.
crazy. That requires a 4, you know, out of
Well,
5 and like ban this book.
right. And in the society that we're headed into right now with the election looming is like not only are we going to continue to ban books like this, and Project 2025 would make this happen a little bit easier on a federal level, right? Um, they're taking away, women's rights, and it's just such a scary reality that it's bigger than just like what books our kids are going to have available in their school libraries. Like it's more than that. Like don't let people tell you like, oh, we're just trying to protect the kids from the books, because this is like the canary in the coal mine. If we've
Right.
got these people working on a local level to remove these books because they say the word lesbian, just imagine we've already seen it happening here in Florida on a state level. What do you think it's going to look like on a federal level? We're not going to burn books. That would be the least of our worries if we just started burning books. We're taking away the rights of women here, to have an abortion, to get on birth control, to have a baby, and to be paid for any amount of time after they have that baby. Like these
Right.
are all basic human rights that we are going to find are going to be harder and harder to come by if we keep putting these people in power.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and we can see what they're going to target as well. We already know that places like the Telegraph Club will not be allowed eventually
Mhm.
too.
Yeah.
I can see that absolutely happening.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. Oh, here's another thing about Project 2025. Apparently, it includes plans to track and monitor pregnancies. And it's going to recommend that the federal government use every available tool, including the cutting of funds, to ensure that every state reports exactly how many abortions take place within its borders. So, like, we're looking at like your pregnancy being like a public government record.
Right.
And so
And don't forget that they had already tried to pass laws where they can track our periods.
yeah. Yeah. And these are all not like these are all real things, bills and things that, maybe died, in the beginning stages of bill development. But the fact that they're even being talked about to me is
Right.
just crazy. And it just goes to show that, we're going to just continue in this direction unless we, elect non-insane people.
Right.
That's the
We need to
bar.
make better choices.
Yeah. That's the bar. It's like I've said this before, Kamala isn't perfect, but she's a step in the right direction.
Right.
She's not a misogynistic, racist asshole. That's who you have to be to become the president, in my opinion. If you're not a misogynistic, racist asshole who can empathize with people, then you can be the president.
And you can't say that these people are not those things because literally all they're attacking her on is her race
Mm-hmm.
and her
Gender?
sexuality.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they swear, it's what was their slogan before? Biden and the hoe or some shit like that.
That's
Because in
awful.
yeah, and they love to spread like misinformation. First of all, let's say she did sleep her way to the top.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah. She
I
didn't,
don't care. She
but
didn't. But
yeah.
even if she did, so what?
That's how you got to do things in this country, unfortunate. Like, I mean, I take that with a grain of salt, but yeah, it's like when you are a woman living in a man society, I'm sorry, what else are you gonna do? Like,
Right. We don't discuss the men who took advantage of her,
yes,
putting
we
her in a
just
position where that was the only choice she had. And I'm not saying that I'm not talking about Kamala
Kamala.
Harris
Just talking about women in general,
in
like,
general. Yeah.
yeah, trying to
And
make their
it's the
way in a man's world.
hypocrisy
Yeah.
again of she's a hoe, but Trump's wife isn't.
Hmm. Yeah.
I don't get that. And again, I don't care. Like
Hmm.
that's the one thing. If Melania Trump slept her way to the White House, good for
Hmm.
her.
Hmm.
I don't hate her for that.
Hmm.
I hate her for other things, but not for that.
Yeah.
Get your bag, sis. Do what you need to do.
Hmm.
But those are the attacks. It's
Yeah.
that and that she's not black enough or that she's lying about being black. Like
Yeah.
I saw someone posted a picture of her and her husband and her husband's kids
Hmm.
and said something like, "Oh, this is a quote unquote black family."
Ugh.
She's never claimed that her husband is black, that
Yeah.
her husband's children are black.
Yeah.
Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
She's still a black woman. She's
She's
half
never,
black.
the fact that she married a white guy and has white stepkids does not mean she is not half black.
Right.
And like
And
these are the things that we have to point out.
and it's misogynistic to do that too. Like so suddenly her identity is just that of her husband's.
Exactly. Yeah.
Like really?
Hmm. Yeah.
It's so irritating.
Hmm. Yep. And so that's, why we're continuing to have these conversations with, whoever decides to listen, whoever sticks in it for this long to listen to us bitch and ramble about the things that we hate with this country. But I do, I always want to make the point of like how the books really do connect to the larger society of American
Mm-hmm.
culture that we're seeing right now. And there really is a connection, especially with this book. This book really kind of makes it clear. So, so yeah, I guess if unless you have anything else you want to talk about, I do want to ask our listeners to rate, review, and subscribe on Apple Podcasts because that
Yeah.
really helps us out a lot.
And
And
follow
follow
us
us
on
TikTok.
TikTok, Instagram, X,
Mhm.
Threads,
Yeah,
all the social media.
we have a
We're
really
at
good following on TikTok. Yeah,
yeah,
we're
we're going semi-viral.
we're gonna keep trying. But if you're listening to this and and you're on Instagram, follow us on Instagram, share our page on Instagram, save it, whatever, because we could really use some love on Instagram. I
Yeah,
think that's like the
please.
second most important social media one is Instagram.
And
But
we're
anyway,
easy to find. Milk for Books
the
or
number
Moms into
4.
Literary Freedom. Either
Hmm.
or should bring us up.
I like MILF for books, the number 4. It's my favorite
I
one.
know. On
Mm.
TikTok, though, they won't let us use
I
that.
know. What is up with TikTok? It's weird. Anyway.
It's weird because the stuff that's on there sometimes is like very explicit.
Right, but the
But
word MILF, yeah.
mm,
Anyway, I guess don't ban books.
ban bigots. This episode has been engineered and mixed by your hosts, Jennifer Mendoza and Courtney Green.
Thanks for listening, and be sure to follow us at MILF for Books. That's MILF, the number 4, books on TikTok, Instagram, Threads, and X or Twitter or whatever you want to call it.
And don't forget to help the show by rating us wherever you get your podcasts.